Hey everybody, welcome back to the SuperBake podcast. I'm your host, Baker. Let's talk about stuff. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. So today, talking about episode 6 of the Rings of Power series, titled Udun, I think is how you say the name. So this felt like a more traditional Lord of the Rings episode, in my opinion. So far, I would definitely say this is probably the best episode of the season, which isn't to say that the first 5 were bad. It just kind of felt like they were all building towards this episode. And for the most part, I think it pays off pretty nicely. We actually got a big battle scene, so that was cool. Not super epic in scale, but still pretty well choreographed and a cool fight altogether. We get to see the orcs led by Adar marching on the humans and Arondir at their keep, the watchtower that the elves were formerly holding. We got to see a interesting trap that Arondir had laid out for them. I thought it was kind of convenient that it worked out in his favor with the whole tower collapsing. I feel like that really could have easily gone, bad for him. But yeah, that whole scene, that was pretty cool. And then, of course, we got to see the battle afterwards with Arondir and the humans fighting who they perceive to be as orcs, but there's kind of an interesting little twist there that I won't spoil. I'll kind of leave that to you to discover if you watch the episode for yourselves. But there's a cool little fight scene with an interesting twist that I liked. I personally didn't see it coming, so I thought that was cool. It wasn't a detail that they randomly threw in there. It was something that was established in the last episode, if you were paying attention. So I think that was it was interesting. It was a neat little twist that they threw in there. But it was cool to see a fight scene again. To me, this is kind of what I was waiting for. This is what I expect from a Lord of the Rings-based show, is epic battles with orcs. And seeing the orcs marching on the keep was also a nice little nod to the original movies. So that was cool as well. That felt like a return to form for me. We finally get to see, some major characters meet up. Galadriel and her party actually meet up with Arondir's party in this. When the battle starts to go south for Arondir, we see Galadriel and Halbrand and the others basically ride in, and the Númenóreans, the soldiers, riding in to save them, essentially. Which, the way it happened, it reminded me a lot of the ending battle sequence in the Two Towers, where we see Aragorn and the others trying to hold down Helm's Keep from the Uruk-hai until basically morning or whatever day it is, and then Gandalf and the Riders of Rohan show up and save their asses. And we kind of see that in this episode too, with Galadriel and company. They kind of show up on horseback and save Arondir and the others from the orcs. So that was an interesting little callback. I mean, I'm sure that was probably by design. It was cool. There were a few callbacks to the original movies in this. I kind of noticed, like the battle sequence, as well as the several lines they have in the show as well, particularly in this episode. There's an interrogation scene, like we see Galadriel and Halbrand actually, they catch Adar, the evil elf who's been leading the orcs, and we see kind of a brief little interrogation scene with Galadriel and his character, where she's trying to figure out, who he serves and if he serves Sauron, and she's trying to figure out more on that mystery as well. I liked that scene. I will say, Galadriel is definitely growing on me as a character. Like, her stern, almost kind of harsh demeanor in the beginning is a little, I don't know, it's kind of hit and miss. But I gotta say, I kind of like her now. Like, she has like these little soft moments throughout the show that I think make her a little bit more relatable. Like, there's a nice little sweet moment between her and Isildur's character in this episode, where they're watching the sunrise on one of the ships. And I like that. There's little moments of that sprinkled, I think, kind of towards the later part of this season. So I'm liking her character quite a bit. And Halbrand as well. I think he's a well-portrayed character as well by the actor. But anyways, the interrogation scene with Galadriel and Adar is a good scene. The actor that plays Adar, I'm drawing a blank on their names right now, but he definitely gives the character like a creepy, like, I don't know, sneakiness to him that I like. It's kind of an understated performance, but I dig it. I dig his take on this character for sure. The only thing I will say, though, is I kind of found it a little bit ironic that when Halbrand goes to deliver the final blow to Adar, like, Galadriel is the one that kind of gets in between them and tells him not to do it. She says, she gives him the whole spiel about drinking from the sea will not cure your thirst or whatever, basically telling him not to seek revenge, but then he has to stop her from seeking revenge. And it's kind of like Galadriel, this whole show is about you trying to get revenge on Sauron for your brother. So I don't know. But anyways, yeah, there's little moments in this episode where we see like some lines that are sort of callbacks to the original series. Like when she's talking to Adar, she tells him how she hears about elves that were twisted and turned into ruined and terrible forms of life, which was a line in the original Fellowship movie. It's a line that Sauron says to like the lead Uruk-hai when he summons their army. And there's other moments like that throughout this episode too, which again I think is probably by design. I think it's supposed to be intended as sort of a callback to the original movies. So that was cool. It's a nice little touch. Personally, it doesn't feel like, at least to me, that they're ripping off too much from the original show. So I don't mind that too much. I think it's fine. I don't think they do it quite a bit in this episode, but I don't think they've done it a whole lot throughout this series, at least so far. And really the focus of this episode was really with Galadriel and Arondir's groups. We didn't see any of Elrond or Durin in this episode, and once again we had another episode where we didn't see any of Nori or the Harfoots, so they were surprisingly absent from this one, which I'm guessing we're going to see more of them in episode 6. And especially just the way this episode ends, it ends on a pretty big cliffhanger, where it looks like, at least from what I can tell, it looks like we actually see the creation of Mount Doom. The very end of the episode, we see like the reason why the orcs were digging all those trenches underneath the humans' village and what was going on there, kind of what their main goal or objective was there. So yeah, and then Mount Doom's creation this episode, that was interesting. That was a pretty cool epic moment where we see the volcano erupt and we see like just the level of destruction that is happening as it's erupting. And yeah, it leaves us with a pretty badass cliffhanger at the end of the episode. All in all, this episode, the stakes definitely felt much higher. The production quality definitely seemed better too. Like the battle sequences in particular seemed pretty well choreographed. The special effects seemed really good as well. It was a tense episode, and also pretty gory too, I have to say. That was one thing about the original Lord of the Rings series, is that despite there being little moments of intense battles, like there really wasn't a whole lot of gore in there. I mean, yeah, you might see some characters, like you'd see mostly orcs getting their heads cut off, but it was usually very brief and you didn't see a lot of blood. But in this episode, there's definitely a fair amount of that. The main girl, Bronwyn, I think is her name. Like we see her get, badly injured, and that's a pretty bloody scene with her character getting impaled by the arrow. So there's quite a bit of that in this episode. This is definitely a much more, I guess I would say PG-13, kind of almost dipping into R-rated territory version of Lord of the Rings. So it's much grittier than the original trilogy, which I don't really mind too much. I'm just happy that we finally got some actual battle in this episode. So yeah, like I said before, and for my money, I think this episode is probably the best one so far of the season. It's got me interested and kind of excited for where the last 2 episodes go. I've got episodes 7 and 8, so 2 more this season. So I would assume that the next episode, just given where episode 6 left off, I would assume that episode 7 is probably going to focus more on Nori's character and the Harfoots and kind of what's going on there with the stranger and all that, as well as maybe kind of letting us catch up with Elrond and what's going on there too. But yeah, I mean, I like this episode. Overall, I mean, I think going into the second half of the season, I think the second half is definitely playing out much stronger than the first half did. It seems like things are starting to happen now. It seems like there's all the setup that's been happening in the first 4 episodes or so is kind of starting to pay off a little bit. So I'm curious to see where it's going. I did see a thumbnail on YouTube that I think I didn't mean to see it, but I think it did kind of accidentally spoil like some pretty major character developments in the last episode of the season. So we'll see. I'm not going to reveal what I saw in there because I want to wait and see what happens. But if it is true, then I guess I did kind of get at least I got one relatively big part of the show spoiled for me. So I'm curious to see if that was the case or not. But yeah, solid episode. Like I said, best one so far of the season. So I really enjoyed it. Okay, and the next thing I wanted to talk about today was I saw, unfortunately, this made me sad, I saw an article saying that apparently Henry Cavill is going to step down from the Witcher series as of season 4. It looks like they've finished, or I think they're close to finishing production for season 3, which is supposed to release on Netflix next summer, so summer 2023. But unfortunately, he did confirm that he is stepping down from the role of Geralt of Rivia after that season is over with. And Liam Hemsworth will actually be taking up that role starting season 4 onward, which I think I read somewhere that there's supposed to be, I think they're planning on 5 or 6 seasons total of the series. So, because I think it follows the books. I think I've mentioned that before. Yeah, this was sad news to me. I love Henry Cavill. I think he's fantastic. He's one of my favorite actors right now. He just seems like such a really cool guy. And just the fact that he allegedly appears to be like kind of a super big nerd in real life, I think also just makes him that much cooler to me. But I mean, I was just so bummed to hear this. I mean, nothing against Liam Hemsworth. I think he's a fine actor, and I'm sure I think he could definitely pull off the look of Geralt. But I don't think he's quite as big as Henry Cavill is. I mean, Henry Cavill, he was Superman, which I bring that up. My understanding is I think he is actually supposed to reprise his role as Superman in the DC films. So I think that's part of the main reason why he's leaving this role is to come back and play Superman again. But I don't know. I just find myself thinking I know he's going to probably make more money with the DCU films, but I don't know. I feel like he just fits the role of Geralt better than Superman. Not to say that he can't play Superman at all. I think he fits that role really well too. But I don't know. Just to me, he just felt like the perfect person to play Geralt. He had the look down. He had the voice down. I loved his take on the character. I mean, whenever I play Witcher 3, Henry Cavill's portrayal of Geralt just feels like what he would look like and sound like if he were to just jump out of the video games. So yeah, that's definitely disappointing. I mean, I'm still going to watch the show. I like it quite a bit. I loved season 1 and 2. I'll definitely tune in for season 3. I mean, if nothing else, I think his departure is probably going to dramatically increase viewership for season 3. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to be curious to see where he takes the character as well. I think he can definitely do it. I just think I think Cavill's absence is definitely going to be felt, though, throughout the show. He has good chemistry on the show, too, with the actresses that play Yennefer and Ciri. To me, I just think sometimes you see some actors that just feel like they're perfect for a role, and I felt like that was what Geralt was for Henry Cavill. He just felt like he was born to play that role. So yeah, I mean, I'll keep an open mind for sure. But yeah, this was just something that I wanted to share and kind of give my thoughts on that. Disappointed to hear that for sure, but I'm going to hold out hope that this season, or that the season 4 onward will be good. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But hopefully, depending on how things go with the DC films, maybe we'll see Cavill make some kind of return. That would be cool. Not sure how they would play or pull that off, but yeah, I mean, I'm kind of hoping that maybe he's not done with the Witcher series for good, but I guess time will tell on that. But yeah, kind of curious what you guys think on that. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. So always curious to hear what you guys think of these developments in shows and movies. So next I wanted to talk about the trailer for the new Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania movie coming out February of 2023. So this premiered earlier this week. I've watched it a couple times now just to kind of see everything that it had in there. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. And just want to give my thoughts briefly on that trailer. Yeah, I didn't see the last Ant-Man Ant-Man movie. Ant-Man and Wasp, I believe is what it was called. But I did see the first one. I really liked it. I liked the take on a character being so small that they almost kind of enter a completely different world. That was an interesting dynamic that I hadn't really seen explored very much, except for the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids series. So that was cool. This trailer definitely looks interesting. We see a few characters introduced in this. Looks like Bill Murray's going to be in it. He just always has the same look on his face in every film he's in. I mean, I feel like he's just going to be Bill Murray. I don't really think he's going to be playing a character. I think he's just going to be doing whatever he wants in this movie. I think he's pretty much notorious for doing that. But it looks like it's going to be interesting. It looks like it kind of plays with a few themes that were introduced in the last film, I would assume, where we see Ant-Man and his family are basically sucked into the quantum realm, which basically appears to be another universe that exists beneath our own. So I think we're kind of still in sort of the multiverse aspect of this phase of MCU. Like we're still getting into kind of the weirder stuff, which I don't mind. I actually kind of dig that quite a bit. But I think the biggest reveal of this was we actually got to see that Kang the Conqueror is going to be in this. Jonathan Majors, who was introduced in the Loki series, actually shows up at the end of this trailer. So that was definitely interesting to see. I mean, I know that they've kind of been hinting at Kang being the big bad guy of the next phase of Marvel. So it was cool to see him once again make an appearance. I'm very curious to see how that's going to play out and where that's going to take the MCU moving forward. I haven't really, to be perfectly honest, I haven't really been following like the MCU very much lately as far as like what the big plans are for their next phase. All I know is that Kang the Conqueror is supposed to be the big baddie of it. He's basically supposed to be like the new Thanos that they're setting up. Yeah, the thing is though, I don't know if they're going to be able to pull off what they did with Thanos. He was such a great character, and nothing against, Jonathan Majors, like, or Kang the Conqueror, or the actor that's playing him. I mean, I'm sure he's going to do a fine job, and I'm sure he's going to be an interesting character. Like, I liked him in Loki, but I don't know. I feel like what they did with Thanos just felt like they've been building it up for like a decade, and it just seemed like a once in a lifetime kind of event. So I'm going to be interested to see like how they do this. Hopefully they can do it. I'm sorry. I think I was calling him Jonathan Majors. That's the actor. My bad. But yeah. Yeah, Jonathan Majors is the actor playing Kang. Okay, sorry about that. That was my mistake. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure Jonathan Majors is going to do fine in that role. I mean, he seems like a good actor. I think he was in that show. What was it called? Lovecraft Country, which I watched a couple episodes of it, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see where this goes. Now that we're kind of getting into where we're actually going to see who the big baddie is in this, I'm definitely curious to see like what they're going to do with that. I don't know anything about Kang though, to be honest. Like, I haven't really done a whole lot of research on him. I know he has a lot to do with like the multiverse and all that, but beyond that, I don't really know a whole lot about his character. Like I knew more about Thanos, and it could also be because I'm older now than I was when the MCU first kind of got jump-started. So back then I was much younger. It was easier for me to get interested and invested in it, and I did more research on Thanos and what his role in the MCU was. So I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of feeling a little bit of superhero fatigue. I'm kind of just looking for other movies now, other than just superhero films. I mean, I still go and watch them. I liked Doctor Strange 2. And I'm sure I'll check this movie out, depending on how it does in the box office, what the reviews are saying for it. But yeah, I mean, now that we're kind of getting into more of like the main story of where the MCU is going, I'm definitely interested to see where they go with it and what they do. But yeah, I'm just a little bit cautiously optimistic, I guess would be a good way of putting it. I'm not going to like get into this. I don't plan on getting into this quite like I did with the previous phase with Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. But regardless, though, it's exciting that we're at least it looks like we're starting to get some traction in the MCU now. So I'm curious to see how this plays out, and also future installments in the series. So yeah, like I said, cautiously optimistic. It looks interesting. It looks like it's going to, kind of like what Doctor Strange did with the multiverse, it looks like we're going to get more of that. It's going to introduce some other interesting themes and ideas in this movie. So I'm definitely curious to see where that goes and what direction Marvel decides to take this in. But yeah, once again, guys, let me know your thoughts on that as well. Did you like the trailer? How do you feel about it? Feel free to, comment below on YouTube. I think that's going to be it for this week's episode. I am going to do a bonus episode that I plan on releasing tomorrow on Halloween. It's going to be my top 10 scary movies list, something that I've been working on for a little while. It was actually kind of tough to put it together, so I thought that'd be kind of a fun thing to do for Halloween. So look for that to be released and online tomorrow. All right, guys, I will catch you all next time. Later.